because people have got to know whether or not their president's a crook. Well, I'm not a crook.
There was absolutely no collusion. Everybody knows it.
Scandals and calls for impeachment have led to comparisons between President Donald Trump and former President Richard Nixon. But is there more to it than meets the eye?
Trump and Nixon have very different personalities. Nixon was a very introverted, insecure man, and probably qualified as a intellectual, bordering on genius when it came to international strategy and foreign policy. Trump is a showman. He's the Barnum of our age, and is not, as far as anyone can tell, a deep scholar of anything. Gets by on personality and aplomb and dazzle, and like all good showmen, appeals to a crowd. Both of them appealed to the grievances of white voters. Both of them practiced what I call the politics of grievance and resentment. And at certain points in the 2016 campaign, Trump even used Nixonian language like silent majority.
The silent majority is back.
The great silent majority of my fellow Americans.
Donald Trump's campaign in 2016 was marred with controversy after controversy, but the most significant of those is still being investigated. It continues to plague his presidency, but unlike Nixon, it doesn't seem to be leading to impeachment.
From what we know now, I don't see President Trump being impeached, or even reaching a state in the U.S. Senate where he loses enough votes that he's forced to resign. If you remember, the House Judiciary Committee voted articles of impeachment against Nixon with some Republican support.
As in the Watergate scandal, there is no evidence that proves direct involvement by the president, but it's perhaps the way both of them move to stifle the investigations that aligns them in people's minds.
You have to remember that in Nixon's case, it was not the crime, it was not the burglary that he was accused of, it was the cover-up. And in Trump's case, you have questions about whether or not he obstructed justice in the way that he leaned on the leading law enforcement officials. The similarities are astonishing in some cases. Nixon had a Saturday night massacre where he fired the special counsel who was investigating it, setting off a political firestorm. And Trump has fired the FBI director who was investigating him. And there's been lots of talk in Washington, whether it's baseless or not, we don't know, that the White House has considered firing Mr. Mueller, its special counsel as well.
But Trump has one significant advantage over Nixon: a number of news media outlets willing to defend him at all costs.
Nixon was dealing with an antagonistic liberal Democratic Congress. The machinery on Capitol Hill was in the hands of the Democrats. The other great difference is that Nixon had a very antagonistic liberal press. It was a quite different press in structure. So the message that was conveyed to America was a uniform, slightly left of center message. In the case of Donald Trump, of course, you have an entire right-wing news media structure that did not exist at the time of Watergate. You've got Fox News, you've got Rush Limbaugh and other talk radio hosts who continually are telling at least a strong, committed segment of the American public that this is all a partisan fantasy, that there's nothing to it, that this is just liberals going after a Republican president.
Nixon's downfall was, in part, due to his failure to come clean. He attempted to cover his tracks and hide the truth from the public.
The more and more that he interferes in the judicial system, if he were to fire the special counsel, I think to a great extent he would be building a case against himself rather than helping himself out. So far, he's been wise enough to come up to the edge and not go over that line. As we proceed, it will be interesting to see whether he resists that temptation.
So Nixon and Trump may seem similar on paper, but the two stories could have very different endings.
I think that the Russia hacking of our election is far more dangerous and serious than Watergate. And once any country's people lose faith in the idea that this is an honest, on-the-level election, because it could be hacked by an enemy or hacked by an enemy in collusion with one of the two parties, that's a very dangerous and frightening threat to democracy.